Alliances are starting to form, rivalries continue to unfold as the drivers start to back one another in a Captain America Civil War style fight for the title as it rolls on to Saudi Arabia. You cannot overstep the boundaries because it could be the difference between you getting pole and you getting P9/10. Up towards the line now, where does the McLaren go? 28.6 puts himself P3. We're now going to go to Shoot Fizzle, who goes up to the line, and where do they go? 28.0 goes 6 tenths clear of Soda and 3 tenths clear of JPS, who is currently having a little battle there.
The wall.
JPS has hit the wall. They're now kind of almost blocking the Sauber of Gary, who was close enough. Gary's gone fastest, 27.8 by the Sauber. But he's now right. Speed Queen goes 28.2 P3 for them. We've now got a couple other drivers who are yet to set lap times. We've got Rusicola, who's invalidated, and this guy near up to the line of 29.1 for the Mercedes. Ferrari's now gone across the line of 28.8 for Funny Wave Band, 28.8 as well for Burrow. Sorry. Burl. I'm reading for capital I, it's an L. Burl, sorry. We've got, so them two are now P6 and P7, but with the Boogeyman going into the wall, frustration for the Alpine, who binned it at some point in their lap. Rupsicola has also invalidated and given themselves damage. So that will be the grid. Gary will take pole ahead of Shoot Fizzle. 5 red lights are coming on now. Here we go. It is round 10, and it's lights out, and away we go for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Gary, and I can't see anything. Gary doesn't get the best of starts to Shoot Fizzle up the inside into turn 1. Gary's trying to defend, who has the inside for turn 2, but Gary's going to have the outside line, which will give him more of a run on traction. This could be the opportunity for Shoot to get by. Shoot does get by and gets by on the softs quite cleanly. Gary's now in P2. There's a driver who's out. That's Boogeyman, who is out of the session.
Through turn 2, they just couldn't get on the power quick enough. Big slide there for Gary Gators. Coming up to the bridge section, it looks like Speed Queen's going to have a look now up the inside, coming up towards the last corner on the track. And that's a virtual safety car. That is the Cooley now out of the race.
To make inroads on one another and not make the overtake, Speed Queen, Shoot Fizzle, our 2 championship leaders will be fighting around the outside. Go Speed Queen into the final corner. Will they get them done under brakes? Not quite. Shoot Fizzle breaks a little bit later there and makes a bit of contact mid-corner. These two fighting all season. And now Speed Queen retakes the lead. But Shoot will have the DRS. And here comes Gary, who's going to make it not just trying to attack Shoot Fizzle, but he's going to have to back out as Speed Queen blocked his line. Shoot Fizzle into P1 though. Can Speed Queen now do what Shoot did on the previous lap and get by? Here comes Speed Queen as they go to the outside. Shoot, can they defend? Soda is looking to the inside of Gary. Gary and Soda up the inside of Gary, trying to make a move stick. Shoot, Gary and Soda do collide, and that's allowed JPS to try and make a move into the second chicane and around the outside. Is there any opportunity for Soda to defend? Yes, they do. Soda remains in P4. Gary just not able to do much at this point unless he's able to make the opportunity now. Shoot was going to wait. It's now going to be 3 wide into the hairpin as now Shoot decides to back out. Gary's around the outside of Speed Queen. Gary to retake the lead. Can Gary manage to defend from Speed Queen? They're not going to have DRS. This is going to be helping Speed Queen back by, but Shoot's not able to do anything as these two have made a rolling roadblock into the first chicane. Gary is looking to defend. He unfortunately gives the speed move the position back to Speed Queen. Here comes the Aston Martin on the Red Bull. Can they make any sort of move stick as we go to never mind, it's going to be the Aston Martin who's going to go 3 wide there into the chicane, and Gary almost taking out Speed Queen in the process. A bit late there from him, but Shoot Fizzle retakes the lead. You want to be pulling away as quickly as possible. Gary goes a bit wide there, and that's damage for the Sauber. And that is not damage for the Sauber, it's damage for the Mercedes. That has been costly for JPS potentially, losing and probably, hopefully, not significant amount of downfalls. Gary made a mistake. They've dropped down to 5th. Shoot Fizzle is now to defend from Speed Queen, who's got ahead of the hairpin, but it's going to be Shoot who has the DRS down towards turn 1. Is there an opportunity for the Aston Martin to make their way back by into the first chicane? Shoot attacks Speed Queen, defends to the has the inside for the Red Bull, has the outside for Shoot in the second part, but Speed Queen managing to just about defend what is now their lead. Can the Aston Martin make another assault on Speed Queen, or will Shoot have to remain behind? It is now DRS for the Aston Martin, who looks to the inside as the Red Bull has used up as much ER as they possibly can. Shoot outbreaks the Red Bull and makes it into P1. JPS has a little look, but unfortunately for them, could not do much about the Red Bull in themselves, as they have to back out of that one. But Shoot's gone wide. Shoot's out of the race. Shoot is out of the race, and that is absolutely terrible for the Aston Martin. One clip of the wall. We saw that a few laps ago from Joseph, and that is him out. We'll now hopefully go to the end of this race. JPS will lead the way ahead of Soda, ahead of Rupsicola, ahead of Mark Treister and Gary Gator. That's our top 5. When does Gary's got 10 seconds
time penalty
for collision with March?
Wow.
That is crucial. That is massive for the Sauber. We've got to get underway now. JPS leads the way, head of Soda, who looks to try and get by as quickly as possible because they want to get that 6-second gap. But up the inside goes to McLaren into turn 1. Can they make anything of it? It's going to push the Mercedes as wide as possible. There's not going to be much they can do. The Williams now of Rupsicola is trying to make an assault on the McLaren as we go into the second chicane. But there's nothing that the Williams could do at this time. I think the Williams even has damage, do they? I'm not even entirely sure myself.
Yes, they do. They do.
They all
Left-hand
three of them.
side.
So all 3 of them have left-hand side front wing damage. Like, oh my god, and that's Rupsicola, who's off the circuit. Here comes the McLaren of Soda as they go up the inside into the hairpin. Is this going to be the move done? They're going to slightly tap JPS as they got bang wheels, but that's going to be McLaren into the lead of the race. Absolutely fighting this one. If you're JPS, you can really use Soda as a bit of a DRS scapegoat to try and help pull away if the drivers behind start fighting. Handflap Kelly, who kind of out of nowhere started fighting. They're fighting Gary Gator. They're going to go to the inside of the Sauber, trying to make a move stick there as up the inside goes Handflap Kelly, and actually they're going to make a bit of contact with the Williams, and that's now cost the Aston Martin a bit of their front wing as Gary is trying to make a move on Rupsicola, and this has just helped JPS a bit because now he's got 2 drivers around him with time penalties, while that Mercedes is penalty free. March up to P6, Handflap Kelly down to P7. Rupsicola is trying to fight Gary Gator as Gary is trying to make a move left, right, but he can't do anything at this stage as here comes JPS, who tries to make a move up the inside. Has to stick it back down in P2. Gary into P3. Speed Queen into P5. Remains in P5 as we now see drivers behind fighting. Here comes JPS, who looks to try and retake the lead potentially. He sticks behind, uses maybe Soda as a DRS scapegoat here, but it's a different effect to what I meant earlier, and just using him to try and stay ahead of the rest of the field. And here's Speed Queen up to P4, and this is all kicking off in the second half of the race.
This is absolutely crazy. The safety car's really shaking things up here, and all of these drivers are absolutely gunning for it, going pedal to the metal and trying to keep as much pace as possible. We can have a little bit of a breather for a second. No, we can't, because Speed Queen's going to go up the inside as Gary Gator even before the hairpin and makes that move stick.
In reality, letting Speed Queen through and not fighting them does benefit them. Here comes JPS, who's trying to make a move around the outside of the McLaren for P1, gets ahead of the McLaren, and the Mercedes take the Silver Arrow, takes the lead once more, and now looks to try and use the Soda to defend from the Red Bull of Speed Queen. And so there's a bit of damage there for the Alpine. I think there might be a bit of contact with someone, but Ali continues on. It's side by side between Speed Queen and Soda as we go into turn 1. Up the inside goes all 3 of them. Bit of contact there. Soda made a very late lunge, but on Speed Queen and JPS, and that has ultimately cost Speed Queen as well. Soda also has DRS. This could get spicy by the hairpin because they're both going to try and make moves on JPS. Soda up the inside. Soda getting a bit of contact with JPS. That's ultimately cost Speed Queen, who was right behind Soda and now has dropped behind Gary Gator, who looks to take P2 and maybe looks to take P1 themselves. Remember, Gary's got that 10-second time penalty as we now see Soda dive bomb up the inside, gets another 3-second time penalty. So Soda really starting to rack them up now, and this could ultimately not just cost them one position, but maybe a whole grid slowed at this point.
Yeah, the whole field is so close now, and that's Bell out of the race. That looks like another virtual safety car is going to happen now. So everyone has now been equalised.
Yeah, we need a little bit of a break there. We're now going to see Gary try and make an attack on the Mercedes. Going to look to the outside. Is this the opportunity for Gary to retake the lead on track? They're going to go into the hairpin. Can JPS make a defence? Yes, they do. Actually, Gary's let Speed Queen back through. Speed Queen has a perfect opportunity now as we go down towards the first chicane. Can Speed Queen retake the lead on the medium compound tyres? They certainly do so. Gary makes their way into P2 in look to defend from Speed Queen. They both get by JPS, and look at that, and that has ended like it ended up perfect for Speed Queen.
So that's going to hinder his teammate because he can't. Oh, there, Gary's out.
Stuff Gary, Soda.
Soda's out. Soda's out.
JPS is going to now try and attack Gary Gator, the mystery machine, on the defence as JPS tries to go around the outside into the hairpin. But Gary looking to defend quite well. He's going to have both of them going to have DRS, and they're both neck and neck towards the line. Will Gary drop back into P3? Yes, they do. But they will have a tow that will help them. JPS fastest lap of the race and back up into P2. This is what JPS needed as they now have a clean fight with Speed Queen with 3 laps to go.
It'd be interesting to see at the end if this 10-second penalty gets lifted by the stewards, because we don't know the circumstances of why that was given. So we'll see in the post-race results.
Marchmeister and Rupsi Cola, they had a bit of contact there. That's given Rupsi Cola more damage, and that is really, really frustrating there. We see, but no, Gary trying to make an attack back on the Mercedes around the outside. Goes Gary, retakes that lead, that P2.
There's only one more corner to go. There's been 27 corners across the 25 laps, and now we head up to lap 25 of 25, corner 27 of 27, and it's around the outside for Gary. Can he hold on? But JPS is able to hold on to that P2. Gary's going to have that slipstream. He's going to have the DRS, and he's going to pull out to the outside line. It's a photo finish, and Gary comes out on top of the 2. We'll see if he can get that penalty removed. Further back, it's side-by-side between this guy, Neo, and March. And Neo beats out March in the end in that side-by-side battle. And it's the 2 Mercedes on that podium with Rupsi Cola and Quek Melly. Now the final finishes. It's going to be a photo finish between them 2. And it's Rupsi Cola who comes out on top of that one. And Gary was able to get that penalty taken off in the end. And Speed Queen taking that victory. Gary with P2. And JPS rounding out that podium with the fastest lap added to his total. This guy Neo is in 4th. Marchmeister is in 5th, with Funny Wave Band in 6th. And it's Rupsi Cola, Quek Melly, and Ali Al Rubai, who did not finish but was classified. In the championship, because of the DNF from Shoot Fizz, he has been closed in, with Speed Queen taking victory, moving up to 111 points. Only 13 now off of the man on the top, with Gary Gator only 10 points behind her. Then Rupsi Cola on 89 and JPS on 83. The 2 other drivers that look like championship contenders, and looking down the bottom, Funny Wave Band finally makes it into the top 10. Constant Soda is in P11 and the leader of what is essentially all the reserve drivers and some full-time with Constant Soda and Yes JC. Looking at the constructors then, and Aston Martin with a double DNF are being closed in by Mercedes, who ended up taking a 3-4, and Sauber not too far off Nora Williams, Red Bull, or surprisingly, Haas. Make sure to join us next week when the Neo Racing League returns.